Hello? It looks like you're trying to be welcomed to...
Post-production.
Hey, so we're going to walk through a couple things today, and hopefully we'll get through all of them in class. If not, between critique and demo, you will just have to learn them here in the interwebs. So I'm going through the handouts. So these files are there on Files for Students. The walkthrough I'm doing is basically replicating the handouts, or handout 10. I guess it's just one handout, singular. But enjoy. So brief review of layers, right? So you can think of layers as like layers of tracing paper, right? Or if you have a piece of plastic film, right? Acetate, right? Super like OG overhead projector shit. So here we have our cyan circle and our red circle. If I drag the red circle to the top, covers up the cyan circle, drag the cyan circle to the top, burp, covers up the red circle, drag, whiteness above the both of them. All right, there it is. Makes a lot of sense. So what then happens when we add an adjustment layer, right? So we've looked at curves adjustment layers, which are a way to make things lighter, darker, adjust the color, whatever. But they are in a layer just like everything else, right? They're there in that stack of these other things. So I'm going to go in here and make a black and white adjustment layer. So come down here to the black and white cookie, click on it, go to black and white, and there it is, right? So it did not change anything at all. Now, why did it not change anything at all? It didn't change anything at all because it is only above that white background, making that black and white, right? Doesn't do anything. It's already essentially black and white because it is just white. As I drag it up above the red circle, right? Now the red circle is black and white and the white background is black and white. But the cyan circle, which is above that black and white adjustment layer, is not. Drag that up one more and now you can see that it impacts all of those layers. So that's just a little bit of review on layer order, including now adjustment layers and how those work. So that was our friend here, Demo 01. We're going to bounce on now to Demo 02. Open that up. And desktop, files for students. Week 4. There we go. Demo 02. Open that up. Excuse me. So this we also mentioned in passing last week. Here is a picture of, I'm a little sad, my late cat. And this image of a postcard sitting on the ground. So what I'd like to do is take that postcard and shift the color of the grass so that it looks dead. Right? That seems reasonable. So to do that, I'm going to add a hue saturation layer. So again, back down to that black and white cookie, go up there to hue saturation. And I'm going to go into, so hue saturation, there it is right there. We can adjust either all of the hue and saturation, right? So I can make everything more saturated or less saturated. Excuse me. Or I can go into a color range. You'll notice if I click on yellows, I now get this little kind of delimiting thing saying, okay, this inner thing is sort of like what I'm going to affect 100%. and then going out to those outer markers, sort of a fall off of what it's going to impact. So I'm going to set that to the yellows, and I'm going to shift the hue of those down, and I'm going to bring the saturation down. And this is me looking down at the handout to see roughly what values I am aiming for. I'm also going to bring the lightness down a little bit. So in the handout, I've got -51, -29, and -9. And okay, well, I'm not quite there, but sure, close enough. So that does make that grass look kind of brown and dead, but it's hard to tell because it also makes the rest of the photograph look like garbage, right? So I can't move, right? I can't sort of like use that hue saturation. I can't move it anywhere to help it, right? If I'm like, okay, well, if I move both of these below the cat image, then the cat image won't be affected. But if I do that, yeah, the cat image isn't affected, but it is also covering up the postcard image and the adjustment layer, so it's kind of useless. So I'm going to drag that back up to the top. I'm also going to rename my hue saturation layer to dead grass. Okay, fine. I'm going to rename it slightly better than that. By double-clicking on the name, dead grass in postcard. You know, whatever. Could I give it a better name? You know, probably, but... All right, so it's there. What I can do now is, as we learned as we learned last week, what I can do now is clip or indent that adjustment layer. Bloop. So I do that by holding down the Option key, moving my mouse between the adjustment layer and the layer that is directly below it. You'll see that the cursor shifts to this sort of box with a bent arrow, and I click it. And now this adjustment layer is indented a little bit, and it only affects the layer directly below it. So that's awesome. I can undo that by holding down Option and clicking there again. Right, you'll notice again the cursor shifts, but now it shifts to that previous icon with like a slash through it. If you're like, Brad, I really have a hard time putting the mouse in the right place, you can just select that adjustment layer and then go up to Layer and create Clipping Mask. Excuse me. And it will clip it to whatever the layer is that is below it. Same thing, Layer, Release Clipping Mask, and it will undo that action. I find the Option clicking thing a little bit easier, but if you have some struggles with getting the mouse to do what you want, then using the layer menu is a perfectly reasonable option. So that's a great way to have an adjustment layer only impact part of an image. We'll look at some other ways to do that later on. The third thing that I'm going to look at, I'm going to go ahead and close this out here. You should save it if you are following along at home, but I do not need to save it because I've already passed this class with flying colors. I'm going to go ahead and open up demo layer 3 again, I'm going to hit F to give it full screen. Right, this is a way, if I go here to make a black and white layer, right, again, thinking back to how it worked the first time, that black and white layer is making everything below the adjustment layer black and white. But if I'm like, you know what I really want is just the red circle to be black and white, and for that colorful background to continue to be colorful, if I go in here, hit Option, while having the mouse in the right spot, Never said it was easy. Boop. There we go. So now that black and white adjustment layer is clipped to the red circle layer, meaning that it is only turning that one layer, the layer that it is clipped to, black and white, and everything below it is not affected. Similarly, everything above it was never going to be affected anyway, and so continues to be unaffected and go about its merry way. So that is our little review of layer hierarchy. I am going to pause that and jump onto another clip in just a sec.